we are back here in the Meadow House backyard, and I did not think that we would get so much finished so quickly. And part of the bottleneck we had was we just didn't have enough soil. Surprisingly, we had enough cardboard to put into the shapes that we wanted. But we didn't have enough soil, and I had mentioned this to my friend Jamie at Espoma, and she had mentioned, wow, well, we have a lot of soil seconds, meaning these are bags that had been ripped, or maybe they were open for too long and they couldn't sell them. I think that they're perfectly fine. And we ended up getting a number of pallets in, and luckily I even had the good fortune of giving some away to some friends and my father and a number of others. Look at this little caterpillar coming through. Oh, hello. We would have not been able to do it without them. And I want to also give a shout out to our new friend Joe, who came in and edged some of the beds, because that is my number one thing that I really don't like to do. But let me just take you through this, because look at everything that has transpired here. It's unbelievable. So this bed is pretty much planted up except for any underplanting. So I want to bring in a number of violas here. If you saw from one of my latest videos on host plants for butterflies and moths, violas, or our violets, are very important for our fritillaries. So a number of fritillaries like the Atlantis fritillary, the Aphrodite fritillary, the Great Spangled fritillary, the Meadow fritillary, all those use that as a host plant. So I think many of these beds would be wonderful for an underplanting of violets. That won't get done until maybe fall, because that would be probably the best time to seed violets, because they need that cold stratification period. And so what I'll probably end up doing is just, spraying seed all over into these beds. Now, another thing you'll notice is that we did some liatris. So this is liatris spicata. So I went in there and got a number of the corms and I just kind of planted them around. And again, the way that we killed the lawn here, many different tactics to kill your lawn or to suppress the lawn. And I have that in another video, which I'll link to. But here we just did cardboard, and we have a pretty thick layer of the potting medium. So we had raised bed mix, garden medium, whatever Espoma was able to give us, we actually put here. And you'll see that we have some tufts of grass. And this is Deschampsia. This is one of our native grasses, although this is a cultivated variety. And some of these grasses are better in the shade, believe it or not, because you think grasses and a lot of them are open, full sun grasses. Well, this one happens to be a shade grass. Now, the trees are not grown up, but I know eventually this will be in a more dappled shade. I'm hoping that they will be able to transition pretty well. Now, over in here, I will say that I didn't plant that many liatris spicata, but there's some smaller ones in here. I think something like this or this, and that is our Liatris newlandii, which is one of our rarer liatrises here in New York. So it may not be rare in other states, so that's, I'm grateful that some of our growers are actually growing some of our rarer plants. So that is one that I'm planting in here. And you'll notice that I have a number of grasses in here as well. And many of these are our Muhlenbergias. So not every single one is a Muhlenbergia, but I have the white cloud version and I have regular muhly grass. And over here I have some of our panicums and one of our little blue stems as well. So here's the panicums. Here's 2 panicums, 2 different cultivars, and then I have a little blue stem in there. And this garden will eventually grow up to be quite tall. So in the front, probably 2 to 3 feet, imagine, and then it goes all the way back to 5 to 6 feet in the back. And I know it doesn't look really tall now, but that's the goal of this bed. So a lot of these guaras, whirling butterflies right here, these will get a little taller, and everything is pretty wispy in here. You can see the grasses are wispy, the Verbena bonariensis is pretty wispy, the foxglove, the digitalis, is going to grow pretty high. And I want to point these out. This stuff that is like quite delicate, that almost looks fern-like, these are all of our rus. And you could see one here that's not a native rue. We have some of our native rue in here, but I picked this one up and it is an Asian rue, but you could see really delicate leaves, really pretty, delicate purple flowers. So that's kind of the theme of this garden, purples and whites. And we have some veronicas and veronicastrum. So this is an example of a veronicastrum. This is starting to get like purple flowers. This is a cultivar called Fascination. Interestingly, it's one of the ones that is a cultivated variety of our white one. And it appears, at least in one peer-reviewed science journal, that the cultivar attracts more pollinators than our non-cultivated variety or straight species, interestingly enough. But look at this whorled leaf around the stem, and then it gets this tall spire, and it will get about maybe this tall. So I have one that I'll have to film close up near our memorial garden, and it's just darling. I must have only planted one back there, but I planted a number here. So again, very tall, very wispy. And I have that similar kind of spike over here. So that's a veronicastrum, and this is a veronica. So you'll see that it has also this tall spire. And many of our liatrices also have that spire. So I've mentioned liatrices many times in the past, and there's going to be quite a bit of liatris in both of these gardens. So I can't wait to see this grown up. You just have to have patience and wait. But maybe you can envision some of this with me already by just me talking about it. Purples and whites. This is pretty much the one garden that has been planted up more fully. Again, more shrubs and trees in this one. And same here, more shrubs and trees. And I know these shrubs and trees will grow out and get big. So it's really tempting to plant a lot of herbaceous perennials in here, but I know they'll probably end up getting crowded out when these trees get much larger. Here's another grass. This is Calamagrostis, so this is not a native grass. And this is another grass that is better in the shade. So there's 3 of them that I've planted here, 2 that are quite large and 1 that is smaller that seems to be doing better. But again, I planted kind of grasses that could deal with shade, partially because I know these trees will start to shade things out, and this whole lawn will actually get shadier as the trees and shrubs grow. This was one of the last beds that we put in, and you could see our Ceanothus or Ceonanthus, which is our fringe tree, and we have beautiful plant here. Somebody said the other day that this looks a little bit like weed, and I could totally see the resemblance, but this is Vitex, so a heterophylla, Vitex heterophylla. So this is more of a Mediterranean plant. Typically dies back down to the ground in the winter months. It's an incredible herbal for women's health, so that's something for folks to look into if you're interested in herbs. One thing I will point out is that one of the challenges of planting on top of cardboard and not deep into the soil, like I did with maybe some of the shrubs or trees. But you can see a lot of the herbaceous plants I have just above the soil, and you can see all these dig marks. And that's like a groundhog or maybe a skunk coming through. And so sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll see a plant that's kind of easily, toppled over in the soil. So until it's able to get its roots and it's rooted down into the soil mixture, it's easy to get uprooted. So oftentimes I'll have to come out here and just like replant a plant. But surprisingly, they're pretty resilient, and there's not much that has been nibbled on back here. Here, I should point out, this was in flower maybe like 3 weeks ago. This is a Tradescantia. So anybody who does indoor houseplants will be like, a Tradescantia, that's cool. This is our Ohio spiderwort. So this is a Tradescantia, very similar flowers, very similar reproductive parts. This is just a beautiful bloomer. It has an interesting dye. I noticed like when I touch the flowers, my hands get really purple and blue, which is kind of neat, but kind of a cool spidery looking plant. So maybe that's how it gets its name, Ohio spiderwort. And you could see back here, this is obviously not a garden, but we maintain this as a more naturalistic area. So this is spreading dogbane, and this is in the Apocynaceae family, really great pollinator, kind of a bit of a toxic plant. And I mentioned how I'm going to be cultivating some more toxic plants here, so I thought this would be a good plant to keep. And there's a whole community of insects that use dogbane. Just the other day, I was walking around with somebody who's really into pollinators, and so he was documenting some of our native pollinators here and non-native pollinators. But we were walking around and we saw the beautiful dogbane beetle, and it's got this really gorgeous metallic colors. I don't see it here. They probably were blown off in the wind in our storm. And then we have some thistles, of course, here. And if we go back further, which we won't, but there's a bunch of nettle back there. And that nettle is an amazing plant, both medicinally, but also it is an excellent host plant for some of our butterflies, which I'll have to do another video focusing on some of our weeds that are perfect for butterflies and moths. So ones like our Milbert's tortoise shell butterfly, we have the red admiral, and a number of others that will use nettle as a host plant. Can't think of all of them off the top of my head. So this is a pretty exciting garden, this little slurf area that we have along the edge of the fence. And this one in the fall will be getting quite a lot of tulip bulbs, and other bulbs, Camassia and tulips. And we're gonna go kind of crazy. So I think that we've practiced a lot with doing our Stinson bulb lawn planting, the 80,000 bulbs that we planted up there. So we have a good experience with that. And I think what I'm trying to do is figure out how many different interesting species and cultivars of tulips that we could get in here, but not make it look chaotic. So I think that the way to go around that is trying to get a similar colorway. So as I shared before, getting purples, whites, maybe deep black purples, merlots, that type of color palette, and seeing if I could source some more heirloom varieties of tulips or things that maybe are unique or different. And so, yeah, it's been fun kind of trying to source all those different tulip varieties, and that is something that we would be doing in the fall time planting for spring blooms. So we'll probably do 1 or 2 more videos of this backyard, but you could already see kind of the transformation that has started here. So if we go up this way, the only garden that hasn't been really put in quite yet is this back area. So we envisioned kind of an area around here, almost like a tree circle, but an extended tree circle that will go around and really define the edge of the path so that folks know where to walk, and I think that will look really smart. But I didn't really want to edge quite yet. I think I'll wait for Sonder for you to edge, because I just don't want to hit a root, and you're really good at getting at a low angle and edging the bed. So that's the last one that we'll finish up here, and then maybe next year we'll get to the rock garden, which is a whole project unto itself. But I've been coming back here almost every day, sometimes watering the plants if they need water, and just getting a sense of the place and the experience. And I just really love how it's coming together, because I mean, I can't believe just 2 months ago this was all grass. And I'm so thankful and grateful that our partners really came through to help us out. Oh, and yeah, it's about the birds. So we had a tree swallow over here, and this was uninhabited. And now we have a bluebird, a family of bluebirds living in this birdhouse. And now we have a family of house wrens living in this house. So I feel like we have the experience of seeing many bird families now using the backyard of the meadow house. And that always brings a lot of excitement and joy. And speaking of pollinators, we'll show you one of our bee homes is like fully stocked up. You could see that we have probably some osmia and megachile bees that are using this. So the leaf cutter bees will have leaves, and the osmia might plug it up with mud. So we only have a few more holes that are left, but I've seen quite a lot of bees using this, and our native bees, which is really interesting. So we have a whole episode on making your home and your area and your land a bit more wildlife friendly. And we spoke with Sam Droege outside of Maryland, and he had some really great ideas. And it was really cool to hear him speak about it. But this is one of the things that we did. We have one on another side of the house that is also quite full as well. So we're just continuing doing our thing here, and I have to say I'm very pleased with the results. And as soon as it dries up a little bit more, we'll be out here mowing the paths, but at least we don't have to mow the entire lawn now that we have the gardens in.
We're going to continue experimenting in the landscape here at Flock and recording our progress, findings, and results. So stay tuned here if you don't want to skip a beat. And a special thank you goes out to all of our viewers, subscribers, and of course our esteemed members who really help support the channel month over month. If you want to find out more on how you can become a member, click the join button on the Flock Finger Lakes YouTube homepage for more information. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.